Now again, to prevent the mold from forming in the first place, especially in a bathroom where the conditions are wet, hot, and steamy, you definitely want to keep the door open so that the steam will be able to escape the room. If not, then the steam just goes up and has nowhere to go, and it just sits up on the ceiling and it just stays wet, and then that's how the mold and mildew start to grow. So one simple thing is just to keep the door open so that the steam can escape, and then you'll never have a problem with mold or mildew building up on the walls or the ceiling. And a good thing too about keeping the door slightly open is that, especially in the bathroom, you'll a lot of times get lines that trickle that come down the wall, and that's from the same thing. The steam starts to form on the top, and then gravity pulls the water down, and the water gets like stained into the film of the top coat, and you'll see like these lines. So just keep the door open just like a little bit, especially if you don't have a fan. And then that way you won't get any of the mold or mildew forming. And since the primer is basically like an eggshell sheen, when I go to cut in here, my brush is able to glide on top of that, which is great. It's not like trying to paint on top of a flat surface where there's a lot of surface friction. Okay, so and go back into it there. I'm trying to cut this in so that the camera will be able to pick up the way that I cut in here. I know it's going to be hard over here where the light is, but you can see how I do it. So that's how the paint looks on my brush there. Go back into what I did right there, and that is cut in there. So the whole thing has been cut in here now, and I'll put my brush and my bucket down, and now I'm going to, I have a roller tray that's down here, and as you can see, this is my roller frame, and this is a 1/2 inch nap here. You definitely want to use at least a 1/2 inch nap here with like the ceilings. So, and make sure that you cover everything with plastic so that when you go to roll, it won't get all over the place. So I'll just start it off in the middle here and get rid of a lot of the paint. Never go into the corner with it, because then you'll have a bunch of paint in the corner. So what I want to do with the roller now is I want to roll as close to the crown molding as possible. Now when I get to this, the roller frame is in the way, so I'll turn it around and roll close to this vent here as possible. Okay? And again, roll as close to the tile now as possible. Turn it around. And I'm just using a little bit of pressure. When I roll, I'm not applying a lot of pressure to squeeze out the paint and flatten the roller itself, because once you flatten it, it won't come back. So you really want to just apply a liberal or a small amount of pressure to evenly distribute the paint over the surface of the primer. And again, since I lay down the primer when I go to roll now, the paint stays on top of the primer. It doesn't get sucked into it like if it was a flat paint. And again, you just want to roll it slow too, and that'll help eliminate a lot of the spatter that is caused by the rolling here. So it's all loaded up here, and I'm just gonna go slow with it. There's a chunk in it right there. I just grabbed that out, and it's gonna go very easy here. Okay, now we'll just work over here. Load this back up. And again, just do it slow so that you don't create a lot of spatter. If I was to go fast right now, the spatter would drop down probably onto the lens of the camera. So just go slow with it. And always use a high quality nap. If you use the lower grade ones, the cheaper ones, you'll create a lot more spatter to it. The good rollers kind of hold the paint within the fabric of the roller, and they're not too much more expensive than the cheap ones, so you definitely want to use a good roller here. And again, come as close to the crown with the edge of the roller there. And that way you'll put the paint on thicker to the surface, and you're gonna go over where you brushed. So it's gonna hide a lot of your brush strokes, if you have any at all. So I'm gonna turn it around and come as close to that as possible here. And do it like that. Now, since the ceiling here is so small, and I'm trying to film this, I mean, if I was down on the ground, I would use a pole and do it like that, but you always just want to keep a wet edge. So this is done now. So we'll just let this dry out, and we'll be back to see how it looks in the end. So thank you very much for watching this video series on how to apply the Mold and Mildew Perma White, and it's made by Zinsser. So until the next time. Okay, so it's been about an hour since I top coated the ceiling in the Zinsser Perma white here, and as you can see, it has dried, and I'm not quite sure if the camera can see or not, but it dries to an eggshell sheen, which is pretty much just, it may be just a little bit shinier than the primer. So it dries to an eggshell sheen, and again, it dries to a washable sheen, so that you can scrub it and get it wet. So it's not a flat paint, so the water is going to stay on top of that. So if mold and mildew do grow on it, or if anything else gets on top of it, then you can wash it. So again, I started with the mold killing primer. This one right here, it's made by Zinsser, and then I finished with the Perma white, and it's an eggshell sheen, and it's also made by Zinsser. It only required one coat because the primer was all white, and it basically has the same sheen to it. So I'll wait and see what happens to this. And again, this has a 5-year guarantee that the mold and mildew won't grow back, but we'll have to see about that. So I'll have to do a video or a follow-up video in the future just to see what happens in here. So I hope that you enjoyed this set of videos, and I will see you on the next one.